Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. I have a new item that I've added to my second coming timeline. We just had another solar flare, and this one is the biggest one since September 10th of 2017. And it came along with two other flares, which means that there was a set of three, and there's just some weird stuff that I want to show you. It seems like we've been seeing a lot of things that have come in sets of three, and this is the latest example of that. In fact, there's actually kind of two sets of three. I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. And then, there's just all these things that happen. This is not related to this particular solar flare, but I was looking at it and I've noticed there's just so many things that happen around the time of President Nelson's birthday. So I want to do just a quick review of that. We'll do that a little bit later on. So, first of all, do these flares mean anything? I don't know, but I think that we should keep on top of it and watch these things. And whenever there's record-breaking events or things that we haven't seen for a long time, or if it's making news, it could potentially be a sign. So let's do it like this. Let's start off with this article from the Washington Post. The sun just launched 3 huge solar flares in 24 hours. What it means. Okay. Here's a video of it. Okay, boom, right there. 3 top-tier X-class solar flares launched off the sun between Wednesday and Thursday. The first two occurred 7 hours apart, coming in at X 1.9 and X 1.6 magnitude respectively. The third, the most powerful of the current 11-year solar cycle, ranked an impressive X 6.3. Okay, and then just so you know, when we are talking about, let me go back to this. We're talking about the 21st and the 22nd of February. So that was about a week ago or so, just in case you're wondering. So it's not like it just happened, but it was relatively recent. Okay, sunspots are most common near the height of the 11-year solar cycle. The current cycle, number 25, is expected to reach its peak this year. The more sunspots, the more opportunities for solar flares. Okay. It's interesting that it's peaking this year. There's already so many things that we've noticed that seem to point to this year. I'm not going to go over that again. I've already done it a million times. I'll probably bring it up again in the future, but let's move on to this article from Live Science. Third X-class solar flare in 24 hours is the most powerful for 6 years, and it may not be the last. All right, what do these guys say? They say all good things come in threes. Yeah, I'll say we're going to talk about that in a minute. But what about supercharged solar flares? The flurry of sun-shaking eruptions is a stark reminder that we are on the verge of entering the explosive peak of the solar cycle, the solar maximum, and are likely to see even more intense and potentially destructive solar storms over the next few years. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised if we get even bigger ones later on. Scientists originally predicted the solar maximum would arrive sometime in 2025 and be weaker compared to past solar activity peaks. However, after numerous warning signs, this isn't the case. Researchers updated their forecast late last year. Experts now believe that the solar maximum will officially arrive in the first half of this year and be as active as past maximums. It may have already begun, but we don't know for sure until we near the end of the solar cycle. If the solar maximum progresses as expected, there could be many more powerful X-class flares over the next few years. If they launch CMEs toward Earth, then there could be some serious consequences. So again, there's a difference between solar flares and CMEs. CMEs are coronal mass ejections. Sometimes they go together, other times they don't. So in case you didn't know that. And I should have pulled this up, but I think I may have brought this up in another video, but there was this concept that they were floating called Internet Apocalypse Solar Storm. Yeah, this came out This story came out last year. Let's just look at this from Fox Weather. Solar superstorm could wipe out the internet for weeks. We're looking at Fox Weather. Or months, scientists say. So I guess this is one potential consequence if things get really bad. I think, like the article said, it would be the result of a CME, not so much a solar flare, but an associated CME. I'm not an expert when it comes to like sun phenomena, so you may know more than I do. But anyway, that would be pretty devastating. Oh, heads up in case you're in this area. Severe storms erupt in Midwest as tornado watch issued for Chicago. So please stay safe if you're in that area. Okay, so excuse me. So now let's look at this. Okay, so I have this as my most recent item. Okay, I have two spreadsheets for solar flares. This one is called Signs Solar Flares Top 50. And by top 50, we're talking about since June of 1996. And this is what it looks like. Let me zoom in. So that takes us back to, again, this officially starts back June of 1996, but the first one in the top 50 wasn't until November 6th of 1997. So we start with President Hinckley's time, and there were a lot of X-class solar flares. Here you have the class, here you have the rating, if it affected Earth in column F, and the solar cycle. So during President Hinckley's time, it was solar cycle 23. And then it just so happened, when we're looking at these top 50, that the last big one during President Hinckley's time was in solar cycle 23. And then the first one that shows up during President Monson's time, it's now solar cycle 24. So 23 during President Hinckley, 24 with President Monson. And you have this period of time right here where it's quiet. I'm assuming that was probably solar minimum. But it's interesting that you had solar minimum during that transition period between the two presidents. And then there's a bunch during excuse me. There's a bunch during President Monson's time. And then the last one that we see during his presidency, and the last one of solar cycle 24, happens just a few months before President Nelson becomes president of the church. So these ones that we're talking about right now, they are the biggest since this one, September 10th, 2017. And you may notice that that's the day after President Nelson's birthday. I have this pulled up just so you can see. President Nelson, born September 9th, 1924. Okay. So we have that. We'll return back to that concept in just a minute of President Nelson's birthday. But you have that. And then look at this. For the next few years, 2018 to 2022, we don't have any solar flares that are in the top 50. There were solar flares during that time, but not within the top 50. It's pretty quiet as far as that's concerned. And then in December of last year, on the 14th, we had the biggest one since that one, the last one of President Monson's presidency. And then that record gets blown away by the next one. Well, I shouldn't say record, but again, biggest one since 2017, just 17 days later. And of all days, it was on New Year's Eve. It's very weird. Okay. And then, this kind of like dropped off my radar, and then I started seeing the stories over the last couple of weeks. And now we have this most recent one, which this one is now the largest since 2017. So, and then I have this one too. I have, this one is called Signs Solar Flares All, where instead of the top 50 since 1996, it's the top 25 for each solar cycle. And I have it like that because the only place where I can find this data is on spaceweatherlive.com. And they have the top 50 solar flares, and then you can look at the top 25 for each solar cycle. So I put that on here. You can see I made a graph, and you can see that the trend is actually going down since 1997 as far as solar flares go. Okay, so we see a lot of crazy stuff going on during President Hinckley's time right here, and then President Monson's time was, not as dramatic, and then President Nelson's time has actually been pretty quiet, but it's starting to get a little bit louder, as you can see. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. So anyway, you can look at this, and it shows more solar flares. There's more data here, and you essentially see the same things. You see this like transition period between President Hinckley and President Monson. You see like the transition between President Monson and President Nelson. Okay, so you get it. Okay, yeah. So with this one that we're talking about now, there were 3 X-class solar flares within 24 hours of each other. And that made me think of this spreadsheet that I'm calling Prophets, President Nelson's Bookends, where you have a bunch of different events that have occurred where you have like one thing that happens at the beginning of his presidency, and then you have another one more recently, as though they're like bookends. And I don't know when President Nelson's presidency is going to be up, but he is going to be turning 100 pretty soon. I don't know if the second coming is happening this year or not, but whatever the case, we've noticed like a bunch of things. So here we have the solar flares, right? We have the one back in 2017, the day after his birthday, and just a few months before he becomes president of the church. And then we have this one right here, right? The one that just happened. And then we have within this last couple months, we've had 3, so we have this like set of 3. This one that was the biggest since 2017, and then this one, and now this one. So you have those 3. And then with the most recent one, it happened that this went along with 2 other solar flares within 24 hours. So it's like another set of 3. Now, excuse me, there are other 3s that we've noticed. So for example, we have Paradise, California, that burnt down the first year of his presidency. And then more recently in August of 2023, we had Lahaina, which is described as a paradise. It's Hawaii, and it's a tourist town, and it's been called Paradise. So we have Paradise, California, and then Lahaina, Hawaii. And then more recently, we had Valparaiso, or the region of Valparaiso, which means Valley of Paradise, in Chile, that was burned. And specifically, Viña del Mar is the primary city that was affected by those fires, where President Nelson in the last General Conference announced a new temple. So we have 3 paradises that have burned. It's weird. Okay. And then we have these. Okay. September 20th, 2022, 3 asteroids passed by Earth. This was 1 week before Rosh Hashanah, or the Feast of Trumpets. And in this case, there were 3 of them, but one of them flew especially close to Earth. The other 2, not so much. And then, just a couple months later, there were 3 giant asteroids that passed by Earth. And in that year, Christmas coincided with the 8th day of Hanukkah. And on that day, there was also a planetary parade, an octet. All those things happen on the same day, along with these 3 giant asteroids. And then the next year, September 25th, 2023, we have 3 more asteroids that pass by Earth. And this time, it was on Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement, the holiest day on the Hebrew calendar. And then guess what? There was one of those asteroids that flew especially close to Earth, and the other 2 not so much, just like this first set of 3. So you have 3 asteroids, 3 asteroids, 3 asteroids, and then you have 3 sets of asteroids. And they all coincide with Jewish holidays. Except for this one. It was 1 week before, but still, it's interesting. Reports of people seeing foxes at the Temple Mount. It's a very rare sight. President Nelson's second year as president of the church. That's the first reporting of the foxes on the Temple Mount. It was during the 9-day the 9-day period of austerity preceding Tisha B'Av, the day that Jews commemorate the destruction of the two temples, and so they associate foxes at the Temple Mount with a certain prophecy that it's like a sign that the third temple is going to be built soon. So when they see that, it's really important. It's fulfillment of that prophecy. And so it's significant that it happened during that time of Tisha B'Av. And then last year in January, there were more foxes seen on the Temple Mount. And then just a few months later, there were more foxes seen on the Temple Mount, but this time not in the 9 days leading up to Tisha B'Av, but on Tisha B'Av itself, which is obviously highly significant to them. They were making a big deal. I've done videos about it. So another set of 3. So you get the idea. During President Nelson's time, we've had these 3 blue moons. Blue moons happen every so often. They're not really that rare. But what is rare is this first one, which was not just a blue moon, but it was a super blue blood moon. And this was just 17 days after President Nelson became president of the church. And then in 2020, we had the Halloween Day blue moon. And then August 30th of last year, the month that Lahaina burned, it was a super blue moon. And it was 9 days before President Nelson's birthday on 9/9, in which he turned 99. So, yeah, let's start talking about his birthdays now. So, again, we were just talking about the most powerful the most powerful solar flare since 2017. Again, the one in 2017 was 1 day after his birthday. Okay, that's weird. We have some other things too. We just talked about the super blue moon 9 days before President Nelson's birthday on 9/9, meaning September 9th, where he turned 99. And then we have eclipses. Okay. President Nelson was born in 1924. And a few months after he was born, there was a total solar eclipse that went over the Sacred Grove, Fayette, the first headquarters of the church and where the church was established, in New York City. So when we fast forward, when's the next time that we see a total solar eclipse over the Sacred Grove? Let's fast forward. Well, we have an annular eclipse, which is not the same as a total eclipse. That happened in 1994, just 20 days before President Benson passed away. But the next time that we see a total solar eclipse in the Sacred Grove, it's coming up on April 8th of this year, the day after conference. The day after President Nelson's 40th anniversary as an apostle. So that very first one, just a few months after he was born. And now this next one, it's during his 7th year as president of the church. And then the next time that the Sacred Grove sees an eclipse is I don't know, but not between this year and 2199, because that's how far this table goes. I don't know. An eclipse just after he was born, and then an eclipse over the Sacred Grove as he's president of the church and in his 7th year. I better do this. There's always going to be the person that's like, well, actually, sorry, I need to correct you. It's actually not his 7th year. Okay, just look at this, just really quick. Let's see, President Nelson. What do I have it under? Yeah, President Nelson's 7s. No, sorry, President Nelson. He became president of the church January 14th, 2018. Okay. That was his first year. 2018 was his first year as president of the church. Look at the screen if that's what you need to do. First year, 2019, second year, 2020, third year, 2021, fourth year, 2022, fifth year, 2023, sixth year, 2024, seventh year. And he's been in his 7th year since January 14th of this year. And he will have completed 7 full years, January 14th of 2025. Okay? So anyway, so we have those eclipses, and then we have this. Look at this. Let me zoom in. Okay, so September 9th of 2022, he turned 98, which if you're going just strictly by years, that's when he became the oldest apostle or prophet of this dispensation. Now, it just so happens that the day before is when Queen Elizabeth II died. And she was the UK's longest reigning monarch and second longest reigning sovereign worldwide behind French King Louis XIV. So she was already a record holder, but she died. That record ended when she died, or that's how long it was. That's what, so someone would have to live longer than her to pass that up. So she dies with that record. And then the day after, President Nelson becomes the oldest prophet or apostle of this last dispensation. That is really weird. The next day, there is a 7.6 earthquake in Papua New Guinea, which tied for the largest of the year. Okay. So the day after that birthday, there's an earthquake. And then let's look at his birthday in 2023. Okay. President Nelson turns 99 on 9/9. The day before his birthday saw the second deadliest earthquake that year. It was a 6.3 earthquake in Morocco, about 3,000 dead. And then on the day of his birthday, Storm Daniel, which was in the Mediterranean, went over North Africa, but it really affected Libya. And even to this day, I've been watching this, and they still don't have an accurate death toll for this event. They just know that it's somewhere between 4,000 and potentially, I've seen different numbers, but potentially like 14 to 20,000 people died in that event. It happened on his birthday. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Just things happen around that time, it seems. There was a person one time that said, I don't think that, God's looking at President Nelson's birthday and he's like, oh, I'm just going to kill a bunch of people that day. No, I don't think so either. But I think that the Lord works in an orderly way. He works in a way that people can see signs and see significance and understand the signs of the times. We're commanded to watch for the signs of the times. When there's something weird that happens, something surprising, something that doesn't seem likely, then we should probably pay attention. So my attention is on President Nelson. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the president of the president of the church at the time in the Second Coming. So anyway, there's that Libya flooding event. And then also here you can see the second deadliest earthquake last year. The first one was that one in Turkey that split that Mount of Olives in Turkey. Again, I think that that's a really big sign. I think it's a very generous sign from our Heavenly Father. Turkey, olive grove, earthquake. Just in case this is new to you, here you go. A Mount of Olives literally cleaved in twain in Turkey as the result of an earthquake. Just like what's going to happen at the time of the Second Coming. And this didn't happen too far from where that one's going to take place when the Mount of Olives splits in two at the Second Coming when Christ comes to the Jews. Let me just show you really quick. Turn on 2023. Actually, let's just do February. All right, so this red one right here, this is where that Mount of Olives was. And it's just right north of Israel. And if we zoom out, we take the entire world into account, it's relatively close to Israel. Maybe a sign that time when we see the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem, cleave in twain, that time is close. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Here's the Temple Mount. Excuse me. There's the Mount of Olives over there. Let me turn on terrain. Whoa. Right over there. That's what we're going to see right here when Christ comes to the Jews. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So I don't know. We've been seeing sets of 3 a lot. And we've also been seeing things happen around President Nelson's birthday. I'm just going to take note of it. That's it. Make of it what you will. If you don't think it matters, then that's fine. If you do, then just remember it. Maybe you should take note of it on your own documents, or you can always access my spreadsheets if you want. The link for them is in the description box of each video. You can come here, look at it. You can't change anything, but you can copy and paste this onto your own spreadsheet and then do your own thing. So, all right. So yeah, the sun, another solar flare, another set of 3, 2 sets of 3 actually with this solar flare. That's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.